Welcome to the QuickPro camera guide for the Nikon One V3. This guide is meant to be a study tool to be used in connection with and not a replacement of your camera's owner's manual. The V3 is a great camera that will capture amazing images as well as HD video. Let's get started. Your V3 has many sophisticated buttons and dials, and to take the best pictures with your camera, you want to be familiar with the functions of each of them. Let's begin by taking a closer look at many of the camera's features. First, there is the power switch and shutter release button. To take a picture, set the power switch to on. Then simply press and hold the shutter button halfway down for a moment to allow the camera to focus, and press it the rest of the way down to take the picture. This is the movie record button. This is the mode dial. The Nikon One V3 includes an intuitive auto mode, creative mode, advanced movie mode, motion snapshot mode, best moment capture mode, manual mode, aperture priority, shutter priority, and programmed auto. We'll discuss more about the various modes on the V3 later in this guide. This is the multi-accessory port, which will allow you to attach optional accessories like electronic viewfinders and external flash units to the camera. This is the built-in flash. To raise the flash, simply press the flash pop-up button. Now let's take a look at this side of the camera. First, there is the flash pop-up button. This is the microphone connector, which will allow you to connect an external microphone to the camera for movie recording. On this side of the camera, we'll find the memory card slot and connector cover. The Nikon One V3 uses microSD, microSD-HC, and microSD-XC memory cards. When you're inserting a memory card, you'll want to make sure that the manufacturer's logo is facing the back of the camera. Simply insert the card until it clicks into place and close the card slot cover. Before you start taking pictures with a new memory card, it's a good idea to format it. Also keep in mind that your camera will operate faster if you periodically format your memory card, rather than simply deleting images from it to free up space for more picture taking. Make sure that you don't format your card unless you've already copied the images that you want to save to your computer. Formatting your card will erase all the images. To format the memory card, press the menu button and use the camera's multi-selector to navigate to the setup menu, indicated by a wrench icon. Use the multi-selector to select the Format Memory Card option and press OK. Select Yes and press OK. Also under the memory card slot and connector cover, there are the HDMI and USB connectors. The HDMI connector will allow you to connect the camera to an HD TV, and the USB connector will allow you to connect the camera to a computer or compatible printer. Now let's take a look at the front of the camera. This is the sub-command dial, which will allow you to adjust a variety of camera settings. Below the lens, there is the microphone, which will record sound during movie recording. And this is the AF Assist Illuminator. In low light conditions, this will illuminate the scene to help the camera find focus. This is also used as a self-timer and red-eye reduction lamp. This is the infrared receiver, which allows the camera to communicate with an optional remote control. This is the lens release button. To remove a lens, first make sure that the camera is powered off. Then press the lens release button while holding the camera with the same hand, and then with the other hand, rotate the lens until it uncouples. Avoid changing lenses in windy or dusty conditions. This will help the image sensor stay clean and free of dust. To attach a lens, hold the camera with one hand and the lens with the other, like this. Align the lens's index with the camera's index. Then gently rotate the lens until it clicks into place. Take great care not to scratch the lens by allowing it to make contact with anything. On the bottom of the camera, there is the tripod socket and the battery compartment. This is the grip connector, which will allow the camera to communicate with an optional grip. Now let's take a look at the back of the camera. The most prominent feature is the large vari-angle touchscreen monitor. When tilting the LCD monitor, note that it will tilt in specific directions, and forcing the monitor in a direction other than intended may cause damage. This sophisticated monitor can be controlled using the camera's buttons and dials, and many of the functions can also be controlled using the touchscreen. In this guide, we'll discuss using the controls primarily with the buttons and dials, but note that you can also use the touchscreen for most functions. This screen serves several purposes. First, when the playback button is pressed, it displays images that have been taken. Using the camera's multi-selector or touchscreen, you can scroll through the images on the memory card. Second, when the feature button is pressed, the LCD monitor provides fast and easy access to the camera's shooting settings. Third, when the menu button is pressed, the LCD monitor displays the camera's menu system, where you can change many important settings in the camera. This is the playback button. Pressing this button will allow you to view your images on the LCD monitor. This is the menu button, which provides quick access to the camera's sophisticated menu system. This is the display button. Each time it's pressed in both the shooting modes and in the playback mode, a different set of information will be shown on the LCD monitor. This is the delete button, which simply allows you to delete photos from the memory card. This is the AEL-AFL Protect button. The AEL stands for Auto Exposure Lock. When you're using the center-weighted or spot metering modes, pressing and holding this button will lock the exposure while you recompose the image. The AFL stands for Autofocus Lock. After the shutter button has been pressed halfway, pressing and holding this button will lock the focus while you recompose the image. This is the main command dial. Rotating this dial allows you to adjust exposure and many other camera settings. In the playback mode, rotating this dial will zoom in or out on the image. The main command dial also serves as the Function 2 button, which can be assigned to a variety of different functions in the camera's setup menu. By default, the Function 2 button is assigned to ISO sensitivity. To adjust the ISO setting using the Function 2 button, press the main command dial, rotate it to make your selection, and press OK to confirm. This is the Function 1 button, which will provide fast and easy access to the white balance settings by default. You can customize the role of this button in the camera's setup menu. This is the multi-selector, which is used for navigating the menu system, scrolling through images and playback, and accessing settings in the feature menu. The top, bottom, and sides of the multi-selector also have specific functions. The top of the multi-selector serves as the AF or the focus mode button. Pressing this button in the camera's shooting modes will provide access to the focus modes, which include Auto AF, Single AF, Continuous AF, and Manual Focus. The left side of the multi-selector serves as the Release Mode button. Release modes for the V3 include Single Frame, Continuous, Self-Timer, and Remote. The right side of the multi-selector is the Exposure Compensation button. To use exposure compensation, simply press the Exposure Compensation button and use the multi-selector to make your selection. Choosing a value toward the minus side of the scale will decrease the overall brightness, and choosing a value toward the plus side of the scale will increase the overall brightness. The bottom of the multi-selector is the Flash Mode button, which will allow you to choose the flash mode for the built-in flash. This is the memory card access lamp, which indicates when the camera is using the memory card. Do not remove the memory card or battery while the access lamp is lit. This is the feature button, which will provide access to the feature menu. The feature menu items will vary depending on the shooting mode and settings that are currently selected. Note that the feature menu is not available in the camera's auto mode. Your V3 has a variety of image quality and size settings that will allow you to capture images with resolution, file format, and compression that you need for your scenario. Let's first take a moment to talk about the camera's image quality and image size options. Your Nikon 1 V3 can record image files in two different image quality settings or file types, RAW and JPEG. First, there is the RAW or NEF setting. RAW files are not actually image files. They are actually the raw data saved to the memory card directly from the image sensor. This means that RAW files must be processed on the computer before they're printed. Next, RAW file sizes are considerably larger than JPEG files. RAW files have a much broader range of tones. Shadow and highlight areas have more detail than other image files. And you can extensively edit RAW files without losing image data. The other image quality setting on the V3 is JPEG. JPEG files are a standard compressed file format that is supported by any image software. Because JPEG files are compressed, the file sizes are very small compared to RAW files, but they also have a much narrower range of tones and will lose some image data each time that they're saved. Let's take a look at how to select the image quality settings on the V3. Press the Menu button and enter the camera's shooting menu. Select Image Quality. Here you can choose from a variety of options. Let's look at the JPEG options first. There are two different JPEG options, including Normal and Fine. The JPEG quality options determine how much compression is used when the JPEG file is saved to the memory card. Images with a normal setting will have the most compression. Images with a fine setting will have the least compression. If you want to keep the JPEG images at the highest quality setting, select JPEG Fine. Now let's talk about the RAW options. You can choose to have the camera record only one RAW file each time a picture is taken. Or you can choose to have the camera record one RAW file and one fine quality JPEG file each time a picture is taken. Now let's talk about selecting the image size. The image size options are also located in the shooting menu under Image Size. This is where you would choose how many megapixels you'd like the camera to use when recording images. The first image size option is large. Choosing this setting will use all 18 megapixels. The medium option uses 10.3 megapixels, and the small option uses 4.5 megapixels. You might choose the medium or small size options if you're only using the photos for emailing or posting online. But most of the time you'll probably want to use the large option. One of the most important concepts in photography is exposure, or the amount of light that falls on the camera's image sensor or film. A properly exposed photo will have good detail in the shadow, midtone, and highlight areas. Photos that are too bright are overexposed, and photos that are too dark are underexposed. The camera measures light with one of three different metering modes. To select a metering mode, make sure that the camera is set to the P, S, A, or M mode, and press the Feature button. Here, select Metering. You can choose from Matrix, Center Weighted, and Spot Metering. The first metering mode is called Matrix Metering. This is a great general use metering mode that can be used in most shooting scenarios. When this mode is selected, the camera will divide the scene into zones. Then the camera measures the shadows and highlights in each zone and averages all the zones. Then the camera uses that average to set the exposure automatically to suit the scene. This is a good mode to use for many situations. But sometimes when the scene is very bright or very dark, you may want to use a different metering mode. The next mode is Center Weighted Metering. Center Weighted Metering functions much like matrix metering, with zones being evaluated and averaged, but with Center Weighted Metering, the zones that are in the center area of the frame are given the greatest weight. The zones that are outside of the center area of the frame, they're taken into account as well, but these zones are given much less priority when determining the exposure. Center-weighted metering is a classic mode used for portraits. The last metering mode is spot metering. Spot metering functions much in the same way as center-weighted metering, but spot metering uses only 2.5% of the frame to determine proper exposure. When spot metering is used on the V3, the area that is used to meter exposure is the center of the selected focus point. This feature on the V3 makes it easy to meter off-center subjects. Spot metering is a great mode to use when there's a lot of contrast between the background and the subject, when the background is either very bright or very dark. Now that you know a little about how your camera sees and measures light to create a properly exposed photo, let's talk a little about the shooting modes on the V3. The first two modes on the mode dial are the Auto and Creative mode. With each of these modes, the camera will do everything for you. All you need to do is point and shoot. When the camera is set to the Auto mode, the camera will assess the scene and automatically adjust appropriate settings when specific conditions are detected. You can also access the Live Image Control, which will allow you to make adjustments to the look of the final photo. To use Live Control, press the OK button to display the Live Control menu, and use the multi-selector to choose the control you'd like to adjust. You can choose from Active Delighting, Background Softening, Motion Control, and Brightness Control. Press OK to access the setting for a control. You can use the top and bottom of the multi-selector or the touchscreen to adjust the level, and press OK to confirm. After you've made any desired adjustments in Live Control, simply press the shutter button halfway to allow the camera to focus. If you're shooting in low light conditions, you'll want to avoid covering the AF Assist illuminator. The focus point or points that achieve focus will blink in green on the LCD monitor. Then simply press the shutter button the rest of the way to take the picture. The next mode on the mode dial is Creative mode. With this mode, you can choose from a variety of special effects for your images. To choose one of the effects, make sure that the mode dial is set to Creative mode and press the Feature button. Here, select Creative and press OK to view the options. First, there is Creative Palette, which will allow you to rotate the multi-selector to preview different creative effects on the LCD monitor. To access the additional Creative mode options, press the Feature button and highlight the Creative setting. You can rotate the main command dial to scroll through the Creative mode settings, or press OK to view the options. The next Creative mode setting is HDR. With HDR, the camera will capture two images at high speed. The images will have different exposure settings, and the camera will combine them to create an image with a super realistic range of shadows and highlights. The next mode is Easy Panorama, which will allow you to create stunning panoramic images. When Easy Panorama is selected, a framing grid will be displayed on the monitor. To shoot a panorama, press and hold the shutter button halfway to focus. Then press the shutter button the rest of the way to begin shooting. The screen will prompt you with up, down, left, or right arrows indicating the possible directions for panning. Slowly pan the camera in the direction of one of the arrows. The camera will begin shooting when it detects that panning has started. As you're panning the camera in the direction of the arrow, you'll want to watch the progress indicator at the top of the screen. This indicator will show you how much of the panorama has been recorded, as well as how much shooting remains. The next mode is Soft, which will allow you to create a soft filter effect with your images. To adjust the level of the effect, press the Feature button and select Filter Strength. You can choose from High, Normal, and Low. The next mode is Miniature Effect. Using this mode, you can make distant subjects appear to be very small. Position the subject that you'd like to be in focus in the small white frame on the LCD, and simply take the picture. The miniature effect is similar to the effects produced with tilt-shift lenses. Next, there is the Selective Color mode. With this mode, you can select only one color to be visible in the image, and the other colors will be black and white. First, you'll need to choose the color that you want to have visible in the image. Press the Feature button and choose Select Color, and view the selective color options. Rotate the main command dial or use the touchscreen to choose the color that you'd like visible in the image. When you're finished making adjustments, press OK. Now take the picture. Only the color that you selected will be shown in the image and everything else will be black and white. The next mode is cross-process, which will allow you to choose a base color to create dramatic photos with different hues. To choose the color tone for your image, press the Feature button and select Hue. Here you can choose from red, green, blue, or yellow. The last mode is the toy camera mode. With this mode, you can take images that have shaded corners and pronounced colors. To make adjustments to the effects in this mode, press the Feature button and choose Saturation. Here you can choose from high, normal, or low. For the vignetting, you can also choose from high, normal, or low. Now let's discuss the V3's unique Motion Snapshot mode. With this mode, a short video clip lasting about 1.6 seconds and a still image will be recorded each time the shutter button is pressed completely. To use the Motion Snapshot mode, rotate the mode dial to Motion Snapshot. Now, simply frame the subject on the LCD. Press the shutter button halfway to allow the camera to focus and to begin buffering. Then, smoothly press the shutter button the rest of the way down to record the short movie clip and still image. To record about 4 seconds of sound with your Motion Snapshot, press the Feature button and select Audio in the Feature menu. Here, select Ambient. You can also choose background music or none for audio recording. To view a motion snapshot that you have recorded, press the Playback button, press OK to play the motion snapshot in slow motion. Another unique mode on the V3 is the Best Moment Capture mode. This mode will help you capture great images in difficult-to-time, fast-action scenarios. To use this mode, rotate the mode dial to Best Moment Capture. There are several different options for this mode. Let's first discuss the Active Selection option. Press the Feature button and select Best Moment Capture. Here, choose Active Selection. Now, press the shutter button halfway for a moment to allow the camera to begin buffering. Now, press the shutter button the rest of the way to capture a series of 40 images to the temporary storage. After the camera captures the images, this display will appear. You can use the sides of the multi-selector to scroll through the shots and press the down button on the multi-selector to select any shots that you would like to save to the memory card. Shots that have this icon displayed at the top right corner of the screen will be saved, and shots that have this icon will be deleted. When you've selected all the shots that you'd like saved, press the OK button, and the camera will save those images to the memory card. The next option for the Best Moment Capture mode is Slow View. To use this option, press the Feature button and select Best Moment Capture. Here, select Slow View and press OK. Now, frame the subject on the LCD and press and hold the shutter button halfway. While the shutter button is being held down halfway, the camera will record 40 frames to a temporary buffer. This indicator shows the progress of recording the 40 images. Continue to hold the shutter button halfway down, and when all of the images have been recorded to the temporary buffer, the camera will play them as a slow motion loop. When the shot that you want to keep is on screen, press the shutter button the rest of the way and the camera will save that image to the memory card and discard the remaining images. The final option for Best Moment Capture is Smart Photo Selector. Again, simply press the Feature button and select Best Moment Capture. Here, choose Smart Photo Selector. With this option, the camera will automatically select the best shot as well as 4 best shot candidates. To use this feature, frame the image on the LCD and press and hold the shutter button halfway. After this icon appears on the screen, you can press the shutter button completely to take the shots. To view the shots that the camera recorded to the memory card, press the Playback button and use the sides of the multi-selector to select the set of images that you'd like to view. Smart Photo Selector images are indicated with a Smart Photo Selector icon at the top corner of the screen. Press OK to access the Smart Photo Selector images and use the multi-selector to scroll through the 5 shots. If you'd like to choose a different image from the set as the best shot, press the OK button, highlight Yes, and press OK. Now that we've talked about the basic shooting modes, let's discuss the camera's P, S, A, and M modes. Note that we'll learn about these modes, but we won't spend very much time discussing basic photography concepts. If you'd like to learn more about how to use the camera's P, S, A, and M modes to take amazing photos, you may benefit from QuickPro's Fundamentals series, which covers important elements of photography, including exposure, basic lighting, and composition. The first mode is called Programmed Auto and is indicated by a P on the mode dial. In this mode, the camera automatically adjusts shutter speed and aperture for optimal exposure. This may seem similar to the auto mode, but with the Programmed Auto mode, you'll have control over the camera's aperture and shutter speed combination, focus mode, release mode, and built-in flash settings. To operate in this mode, rotate the mode dial to P. Press the shutter button halfway down to activate the exposure meter. To monitor the shutter speed and aperture settings, look through the viewfinder or watch the information display. Hold the shutter button halfway down to focus, then press the shutter button all the way to take the picture. You may find that the shutter speed is too slow for what you're photographing, or that the aperture does not give you the depth of field that you're looking for. If you'd like to change the camera's shutter speed and aperture combination, simply rotate the main command dial. The next setting on the mode dial is the shutter priority mode, indicated by an S. The shutter priority mode is useful for times when you want to control motion in a scene, whether it's freezing action or blurring the motion of the subject. In this mode, you'll set the shutter speed and the camera will automatically select an appropriate aperture value for proper exposure. To use the camera in shutter priority mode, set the mode dial to S. Press the shutter button halfway to activate the exposure meter. Rotate the main command dial to select the shutter speed. You can view the shutter speed and aperture values on the LCD monitor. The next mode is aperture priority, indicated by an A on the mode dial. The aperture priority mode is useful for times when you want to control the depth of field in an image. Depth of field is the term used to describe the distance between the nearest and farthest objects in a scene that appear acceptably sharp in an image. When only a small area or subject in an image is in focus, it's said to have a shallow depth of field. This effect is achieved by using a smaller f-stop number. When everything in both the foreground and background is in focus, an image is said to have a long depth of field. For a long depth of field, choose a larger f-stop number. When you're shooting in aperture priority mode, you'll set the aperture, and the camera will automatically select the correct shutter speed for proper exposure. To use this mode, rotate the mode dial to A. Rotate the sub-command dial to select an aperture value as you watch the display on the LCD monitor. Once you have made your selection, press the shutter button halfway to focus and the rest of the way to take the picture. The next shooting mode is manual, or M mode, which is indicated by an M on the mode dial. This mode gives you complete control of the camera. In manual mode, you will set both the shutter speed and aperture to create the exposure. To operate the camera in manual mode, rotate the mode dial to M. To set the shutter speed, rotate the main command dial. To set the aperture, rotate the sub-command dial. As you're making adjustments, watch the exposure scale on the LCD monitor. When the exposure level indicator is near the center of the scale, the image will be properly exposed. You can choose just the right aperture and shutter speed combination for your scene, whether you want to freeze action or to create a very shallow depth of field. Make the necessary adjustments to the aperture and shutter speed so that the exposure level indicator is near the center of the scale. Then press the shutter button halfway down to focus and the rest of the way down to take the picture. In addition to aperture and shutter speed, the camera's ISO setting will have a significant impact on whether your images are properly exposed. The ISO setting controls the image sensor's sensitivity to light. The higher the number, the less light that is required to properly expose the image sensor. You can either have the camera automatically choose the sensitivity, or you can set it manually. There are two simple ways to set the ISO on the V3. First, you can press the Function 2 button, main command dial, to display the ISO settings. Then, rotate the main command dial or multi-selector to make your selection. Press the OK button or Function 2 button to confirm. The other method is with the Feature menu. Press the Feature button, use the multi-selector to select the ISO option, and press OK to view the settings. Use the multi-selector and OK button to make your selection. You'll want to choose the ISO setting based on the lighting conditions. When you increase the ISO speed to a higher number for low light, a faster shutter speed can be used to avoid blurry images. However, the higher the ISO setting, the more digital noise or grain you will start to see in your images. Here's a guide that will help you have a basic idea of what ISO settings to use in various situations. When you're outdoors in full sun, use ISO 100 to 200. In the shade, on an overcast day, or indoors with lots of window light, use ISO 400. ISOs 800 and higher should be used indoors for action shots or in other low light conditions. Now that we've discussed shooting modes and ISO settings, let's take a minute to talk about the camera's release modes. Release modes determine how many times the shutter releases when you press the shutter button. The V3 has single frame, continuous, self-timer, and remote. To set the release mode, press the left side of the multi-selector, which is the release mode button. Use the multi-selector to highlight your selection and press OK to confirm your selection. For the continuous, self-timer, and remote release modes, you can adjust settings by pressing the right side of the multi-selector. Once you've made your selection, press the OK button to confirm and resume normal picture taking. In single frame release mode, one picture will be taken when you press the shutter button completely. This is a good mode for stationary subjects. The continuous release mode will record up to 60 frames per second while the shutter button is pressed down completely, depending on the setting that is selected. The self-timer mode will take the picture either 10 or 2 seconds after the shutter button is pressed completely. Use this mode for self-portraits or with a tripod to reduce camera shake at very slow shutter speeds. The remote release mode will allow you to take pictures with an optional remote. You can choose to have the picture taken immediately when the shutter button on the remote is pressed, or you can choose to have the picture taken 2 seconds after the shutter button on the remote is pressed. Let's take a few moments to learn more about the options that are displayed on the camera's LCD monitor. Note that these settings may vary depending on the shooting mode that you have selected. In the simplified display, several important shooting settings are displayed on the bottom of the screen. First, the metering mode, shutter speed, aperture, and ISO settings are displayed. This is the movie recording time that is available on the memory card. And this shows the number of still images that can be recorded. This is the tap shooting icon. When enabled, tap shooting will allow you to simply tap the subject on the LCD, and the camera will automatically focus and take the picture without the shutter button being pressed. At the top of the screen, the shooting mode is displayed. Pressing the display button will allow you to view the detailed display. In addition to the icons that are displayed in the simplified display, you'll also see the release mode, active delighting setting, picture control, white balance setting, movie frame size frame rate, image size and quality, focus mode, and focus area mode. These icons are the beep and battery indicators. Pressing the display button again will show the virtual horizon display. which indicates whether the camera is level in both the side-to-side and forward-backward positions. Your Nikon 1V3 is capable of recording amazing quality HD video. Before you begin recording movies with your camera, you'll want to set the movie frame size and frame rate. To do this, press the Menu button and scroll to the Movie menu. Here, select Frame Size, Frame Rate. The first option is 1920 by 1080 at 60 frames per second. This setting is the highest quality video your camera is capable of recording. Next, there is 1920 by 1080 at 30 frames per second. This option is still full HD, but the frame rate is lower, which means that fast action sequences may not have the same crisp detail that the 60 frames per second option would give. The next two options are 1280 by 720, 60 and 30 frames per second. The 1280 by 720 recording size is good for times when you want high quality video, but it doesn't need to be full HD. To record sound during movie recording, the V3 has a built-in microphone, which will record sound automatically by default. Take care not to cover the microphone during movie recording. If you'd like to turn off sound recording, you can do this through the camera's menu system. In the Movie menu, navigate to Movie Sound Options and Microphone. Here you can select Auto, High, Medium, or Low Sensitivity, or you can choose Microphone Off. To record a movie, make sure that the mode dial is set to any shooting mode except Motion Snapshot or Best Moment Capture. Simply press the shutter button halfway to focus and press the Movie button to begin recording. Press it again to end recording. To take creative control of the exposure settings for movie recording, set the mode dial to the Advanced Movie mode. From here, you can press the Feature button to access the options. First, there is the Advanced Movie setting. You can choose from HD Movie, Slow Motion, Fast Motion, Jump Cut, or 4-second movie. Next, you can choose the Shooting mode. You can choose from Scene Auto Selector, Programmed Auto, Shutter Priority, Aperture Priority, and Manual. If you choose one of the PSA or M modes, you'll be able to make adjustments to the shutter speed, aperture, and ISO settings, just like you can for still shooting. To view a movie that you have recorded, press the Playback button. If necessary, scroll to the movie that you'd like to play and press the OK button to begin movie playback. The Nikon 1V3 has many options available for previewing images. Let's discuss the playback options and displays now. For basic playback of your images on the camera's LCD monitor, simply press the Playback button. Then you can use the multi-selector to scroll through the images. If you have a large number of images recorded on the memory card, you may find that it's faster to find the photos that you'd like to view if you display multiple photos on the screen at once. To do this, simply rotate the main command dial to the left. Rotating the dial once will display 4 images on the LCD monitor. Rotating the dial twice will display 9 images. Rotating the dial a third time will display 16 images. And rotating the dial a fourth time will display the calendar playback. From any of the thumbnail playback displays, you can use the multi-selector to scroll through the images, and press the OK button for a full screen display of the image that you'd like to view. You can also magnify images on the LCD monitor. This is especially useful when you want to check for good focus in detail areas of the photo. Rotate the main command dial to the right once or multiple times to see the desired level of detail in the photo. Then you can use the multi-selector to scroll top to bottom and side to side of the photo. To return to regular image playback, press the OK button. As you're scrolling through photos in the camera's playback, you may find some images that you'd like to protect from being accidentally erased. To protect an image, Press the Menu button and enter the Playback menu. Here, choose Protect and select Set. Use the sides of the multi-selector to scroll through the images, and press the top of the multi-selector to protect an image. A small key icon will appear to indicate the image is protected. To unprotect an image, press the bottom of the multi-selector. If you find a photo that didn't turn out, you can delete it from your memory card by pressing the Delete button. When the dialog appears, press the Delete button again and the image will be removed from the memory card. Note that once an image is erased, it cannot be recovered. There are several different playback screens and options on the V3. Let's take a look at the first and default playback screen. This screen is the simple photo information display, where you can see some of the most important information about the image. First, there is the battery indicator, the folder name where the image is saved, the date and time the image was recorded, and the image quality and size settings. At the top left corner of the screen, there is the shooting mode, and at the top right corner of the screen, the frame number out of the total number of images is displayed. To view additional playback displays, press the Display button. Pressing the Display button will display the detailed photo information display. In addition to the information that was shown in the default or simple photo information display, there is a histogram of the image. The histogram gives a basic idea of the tone distribution of an image. If the histogram is shifted to the left side of the graph, the image will probably be dark or underexposed. If the histogram is shifted to the right side of the graph, the image will be too bright or overexposed. In most cases, a properly exposed photo will have the data distributed in the center of the graph or over the whole graph. The histogram will help you have a basic idea of the overall exposure of your image when you're outdoors in bright sunlight and the photos are difficult to see on the LCD monitor. This screen also shows the metering mode, the shooting mode, the shutter speed, the aperture, the ISO setting, the focal length, the exposure compensation and flash compensation settings, the white balance setting, the color space, the picture control, and the active delighting setting. Pressing the Display button again will display the No Photo Information display, which is simply a full screen view of the image. The Nikon One V3 has a sophisticated autofocus system with a variety of autofocus modes and areas that, when used well together, will help you get great focus regardless of what type of subject you're photographing. When you're choosing an autofocus mode and an autofocus area mode, the main thing that you'll need to consider is whether or not the subject is in motion. Note that the autofocus and autofocus area mode options are available only when the camera is set to the P, S, A, or M modes. Let's first discuss two of the camera's autofocus modes, single servo AF and continuous servo AF. To choose an autofocus mode on the V3, press the top of the multi-selector, which is also the AF mode button. You can choose from AFA or Auto Servo AF, AFS or Single Servo AF, AFC or Continuous Servo AF, and Manual Focus. AFS or Single Servo AF is intended for use with stationary subjects. In this mode, the focus is locked when the shutter button is pressed halfway. This would be a good mode to choose if you're photographing products or doing portrait work with an older child or adult. AFC, or Continuous Servo Autofocus, is the mode that you would want to choose for photographing moving subjects. In this mode, the camera will focus continually while the shutter button is pressed halfway. This mode is great if you're photographing a sporting event, smaller children, or animals. The other autofocus mode is AFA, or Auto Servo AF. In this mode, the camera will switch between single and continuous servo automatically if the still subject starts moving. The last of the focus modes is the manual focus, or MF mode. This gives you control to manually focus on any subject by using the focus ring. Before we begin discussing the autofocus area modes, please note that autofocus modes and autofocus area modes are different settings, but function together. Understanding how they work together will help your images have great focus. To choose the AF area mode, press the Feature button and select AF area mode option. You can choose from Auto Area AF, Single Point AF, and Subject Tracking. In Auto Area AF, the camera will automatically find the subject and choose the appropriate focus point or points to use. Auto Area AF is great for snapshots or for situations when you don't have time to select the focus point manually. However, keep in mind that in the Auto Area AF mode, the camera may occasionally choose to focus on a subject other than what you had intended. The next autofocus area mode is Single Point AF. In this autofocus area mode, you will manually select the exact focus point that you'd like the camera to use for focus. This autofocus area mode is great for stationary subjects. Once you've selected the Single Point AF for the autofocus area mode, it's easy to select the focus point. Press the OK button, use the camera's multi-selector to position the focus area, and press OK again to set the position of the focus area. The camera will focus only on the subject that is within the selected focus point. The last AF area mode is Subject Tracking. With Subject Tracking, focus can be maintained for subjects that move quickly through the frame. To use this AF area mode, first make sure that Subject Tracking has been selected in the Feature menu. Then, press the OK button and use the multi-selector to position the AF area over the subject, and press OK to lock the focus on that subject. As the subject moves through the frame, the AF area will continue to track and focus on it. To cancel subject tracking, press the OK button. Sometimes a photo may have poor focus, but it's not related to the camera's focus mode or focus area mode. Camera shake happens when the camera moves while the shutter is open. This exposes the image sensor while the camera is moving and results in blurry images. Always try to steady the camera. Holding it with two hands and pressing the viewfinder gently against your face will help. You can also lean against something, use a tripod, a monopod, or even a beanbag to steady the camera. You can also reduce the effective camera shake by selecting a faster shutter speed. This reduces the amount of time the image sensor is exposed to shaky conditions. A helpful rule of thumb is to set your shutter speed to 1 over the focal length. Confusing? Let me explain. If the focal length on your lens is 300 millimeters, for example, you should set your shutter speed to at least 1/300th of a second. If the focal length is 30 millimeters, you might get by using a shutter speed as low as 1/30th of a second. Let's take a look at the V3's sophisticated menu system. To access the menus, simply press the Menu button. There are 5 different menus, including the Playback, Shooting, Movie, Image Processing, Setup, and Wi-Fi. Many of these settings are discussed in greater detail in other chapters of this guide. We'll just look at an overview of the menu items in this chapter. Let's first take a look at each of the items in the Playback menu. First, there is the Delete option. Here, you can choose to delete a selected group of images, delete images by the date they were taken, or you can delete all of the images. The next option is the Slideshow option, where you can create a slideshow of the images for playback on the camera's LCD or television when the camera is connected with a compatible cable. The next option allows you to turn the image review on or off. Next, there is Rotate Tall. Here you can choose to have images that were taken with a vertical orientation automatically rotate for viewing in the playback screen. Next, there is Wi-Fi Upload, which will allow you to upload selected images to your smartphone or tablet using the camera's Wi-Fi feature. The DPOF print order option will allow you to choose the order that images are printed directly from the camera when you're using a compatible printer. Next, there is Protect, which will allow you to protect images from accidental deletion. Note that protected images will be removed from the memory card if the memory card is formatted. Next, there is Rating, which will allow you to apply a star rating to your images for easier sorting later. Next, there is D-Lighting, which will allow you to brighten the shadows in an image and save a copy to the memory card. With the Resize option, you can create a smaller copy of an image and save it to the memory card. The next option is Crop, which will allow you to crop an image in camera and save a copy to the memory card. Edit Movie is next. With this option, you can trim unwanted footage from your movie clip and save a copy to the memory card. The next menu item is Combine 4-second movies. With this option, you can combine up to 8 movie clips that have been created using the camera's 4-second movie option in the Advanced Movie mode. The last option in the Playback menu is Combine NMS movies. With this option, you can combine up to 8 NMS format movie snapshots into a single movie. The next menu is the Shooting menu. Note that the options in this shooting menu will vary depending on the mode that is selected on the mode dial. We'll be discussing the options available when the camera is set to the programmed auto mode. The first option is Reset Shooting Options, which will allow you to reset the shooting menu settings to factory default. The next two options are the image quality and image size. Next, there is Metering, which will simply allow you to select the metering mode. Next, there is Auto Distortion Control option. When enabled, this option will automatically correct the distortion that is caused by certain lenses. The next option is Color Space. Your camera has 2 color space options. Some photographers prefer the sRGB mode, as it requires less processing later. Other photographers prefer the Adobe RGB mode, as this mode has a wider range of colors, making it a preferred option for images that will be extensively processed on the computer. The Active D-Lighting option is next. Active D-Lighting helps preserve highlight and shadow areas, making images look more natural. Overall, Active D-Lighting is a great way to improve your photos in camera. The Long Exposure Noise Reduction option will allow you to enable or disable the noise reduction for images taken at very slow shutter speeds. Next, there is Interval Timer Shooting, which will allow you to configure your camera to take pictures at preset time intervals. Optical Vibration Reduction is next. With this option, you can choose the level of vibration reduction for certain lenses, or you can turn vibration reduction off. The next two options are the Focus Mode and AF Area Mode options, which will simply allow you to choose the mode for those settings. Next, there is Face Priority. When enabled, Face Priority will give focusing priority to faces in the scene. Built-in AF Assist will allow you to enable or disable the AF Assist illuminator. Flash Control is next. This option will allow you to choose the flash mode when the camera is set to the PSA or M shooting modes. The last option in the shooting menu is Flash Compensation, which will simply allow you to adjust the overall brightness of the built-in flash. The next menu is the Movie menu. Reset Movie Options is first, and it will allow you to reset the menu to factory default. The next option is Frame Size, Frame Rate, which will simply allow you to choose the camera's movie frame size and frame rate. Next, there is Movie Sound Options. Here you can adjust the microphone sensitivity, and you can enable or disable the wind noise reduction. Next, there is Optical VR, which will allow you to choose the vibration reduction for movie shooting. Electronic vibration reduction will allow you to enable or disable the electronic vibration reduction when certain lenses are attached to the camera. The final item in the movie menu is Auto Image Capture. With this option, you can set up the camera to automatically take still images during movie recording. You can choose the maximum number of still images that you'd like the camera to record each minute. The next menu is the Image Processing menu. Reset Processing Options is first and will allow you to reset this menu to factory default. The next three options are White Balance, ISO Sensitivity, and Picture Control, which will simply allow you to choose the setting for those options. Next, there is Custom Picture Control, which will allow you to create a custom picture control. The final item in the Image Processing menu is High ISO Noise Reduction, which will allow you to enable or disable noise reduction for images taken at high ISO settings. The next menu is the Setup menu. Reset Setup Options is first and will allow you to reset this menu to factory default. Next, there is the Format Memory Card option, which will simply allow you to format the memory card. The Slot Empty Release Lock setting allows you to choose what you'd like the camera to do when there's no memory card inserted and the shutter button is pressed. Next, there is Display. With this option, you can adjust the LCD brightness and choose to have a composition grid shown on the LCD. And you can enable or disable the Playback Highlight Display. The Playback Highlight Display will make very overexposed areas of the image blink in black during playback. The next option is Silent Photography. When enabled, Silent Photography will eliminate the sound made by the camera during shooting. Next, there is Sound Settings, which will allow you to choose the beep sounds that are heard during autofocus for the self-timer and for the touchscreen controls. Next, there is Auto Power Off, where you can choose whether you'd like the camera to wait 1 minute or 10 minutes before automatically powering off when it's not in use. With touchscreen controls, you can enable or disable the touchscreen functions of the LCD monitor. The Remote On Duration setting allows you to choose how long the camera will wait for a remote control signal before canceling the remote control. The next two options are Assign Function button and Assign AEAFL button. For each of these options, you can assign a function to these buttons. Next, there is Shutter button AE Lock, which will allow you to choose whether or not the exposure will be locked when the shutter button is pressed halfway. With HDMI device control, you can choose whether or not you'd like to be able to control the camera with an HD TV's remote control when the camera is connected to a compatible TV with an HDMI cable. The flicker reduction is used when you're recording video under fluorescent or mercury vapor lights. You'll want the setting to match the local AC power supply. Reset File Numbering is next. With this option, you can reset the file numbering to 0001. The next two options will simply allow you to set the time zone, date, and language for the camera's displays. Next, there is Auto Image Rotation, which will allow you to choose whether or not you'd like your vertical images to automatically rotate in playback mode and on the computer. Pixel Mapping is next. With this option, you can check and optimize the camera's image sensor and processors. The final item in the Setup menu is Firmware Version, which will simply display the current firmware version. The final menu is the Wi-Fi menu with two options. First, there is Connect, which will allow you to begin a Wi-Fi connection to a smart device. The other option is Wi-Fi Connection Type, where you can choose the connection type you need. The quality of your images will be impacted by the white balance and the overall color and tone of the image. You can use the camera's white balance and picture controls to adjust the color and tone to your liking. White balance is determined by the color temperature of light sources, which is measured in degrees Kelvin. The higher color temperatures, in the area of about 7,500 Kelvin to 5,600 Kelvin, are usually found in situations like a sunlit or cloudy day. These shooting situations have a greater amount of cool blue tones and a lesser amount of warm red tones. To compensate for the coolness of the color, the camera will add warm tones to help balance the color temperature. Lower color temperature situations are measured in the area of 3,500 Kelvin down to 1,900 Kelvin and are found in lighting situations like standard lighting from a tungsten light bulb or candlelight. These types of shooting situations are found on the lower end of the spectrum and produce greater amounts of warm red tones and lesser amounts of cool blue tones. To select a white balance setting, press the Function 1 button and use the multi-selector, main command dial, or touch screen to make your selection. The first white balance option is Auto White Balance. With this setting, the camera will automatically adjust the color temperature. The next white balance setting is Incandescent. This is a good setting to use when taking pictures under common light bulbs. It reduces the reddish tones in a picture. This setting is marked with a light bulb icon. The fluorescent light setting is great for taking pictures under fluorescent lighting. The next white balance setting is Direct Sunlight. Direct Sunlight is a great setting for taking pictures in the sunlight. This setting is marked with a sun icon. The next setting is the Flash setting. Use this setting when you're using the built-in or an external flash unit. The next setting is Cloudy. Use this setting when taking pictures on days that are overcast. Use the Shade setting when you're taking pictures in the shade. It reduces the bluish tones in a picture. Each of these white balance settings can be fine-tuned. To do this, enter the Image Processing menu and scroll to White Balance. Scroll to any white balance setting other than PRE and press the right side of the multi-selector to show the color temperature grid. Use the multi-selector to place the cursor in the area of the grid you'd like. You can increase the green, amber, magenta, or blue in the image. When you're finished, press OK to confirm your selection. The last white balance option is Preset Manual. With this setting, you can create a custom white balance for your specific lighting conditions. Setting a custom white balance will ensure the best accuracy for the white balance in your images. To set a preset white balance, enter the camera's Image Processing menu and select White Balance. Here, scroll to Preset Manual and press the right arrow on the multi-selector. Select Yes and press OK. Now, fill the viewfinder with a white object and take the picture. If the white balance measurement was successful, White Balance Measured Successfully will appear on the LCD monitor. Otherwise, the camera will prompt you that it was unable to measure the white balance and you'll need to take another picture of a white object. In addition to white balance, there are two other features on your V3 that can improve the quality of your images: picture controls and active delighting. Let's talk about the picture controls. This feature will allow you to customize the look of your image. There are 6 picture controls, including standard, neutral, vivid, monochrome, portrait, and landscape. The picture controls on the V3 are easily accessed in the Feature menu. Press the Feature button and select the picture control setting. Here, you can use the multi-selector to make your selection. The standard picture control is the default setting, and it offers standard processing and balanced results. This is a good picture control for general situations. The neutral picture control is a good setting to choose if you wish to process your images with your computer. Colors in this picture style are natural and subdued. The vivid picture control is great for images with primary colors that you'd like emphasized. The monochrome picture control is useful when you would like to take black and white photographs. Note, images taken in this setting cannot be converted to color later. The portrait picture control is great for portraits. It offers pleasant skin tones and textures. The landscape picture control is good for taking pictures of scenery or cities outdoors. You can also customize any of the picture controls. To do this, enter the Image Processing menu and select Custom Picture Control and Edit Save. Now, we'll need to select a picture control to modify. We'll choose Vivid and press the right side of the multi-selector to access the options. Settings can be adjusted using the sides of the multi-selector. To make the control on the Vivid Picture control a little more saturated, select Saturation and use the multi-selector to choose a value toward the plus side of the scale. The V3 also has a feature called Active D-Lighting. When enabled, this feature will preserve detail in the shadow and highlight areas of images with high contrast. This feature is most effective when it's used with matrix metering mode. To use Active D-Lighting, enter the Shooting menu and select Active D-Lighting. Here, you can use the multi-selector to enable or disable Active D-Lighting. Your V3 has a powerful built-in flash that can provide you with extra light in certain shooting scenarios. The effective range of the built-in flash is between 2 and 30 feet, depending on the aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. As a general rule, you'll want to keep your subject within about 3 to 20 feet for the best results. To use the built-in flash, simply press the Flash pop-up button, and the flash will pop up. We'll be discussing the flash modes that are available when the camera is set to Programmed Auto. To select the flash mode, press the bottom of the multi-selector, which is also the flash mode button. Here, you can use the multi-selector to make your selection. Note that certain flash modes are available in certain shooting modes. The first flash mode is Fill Flash. This mode is a good general use flash mode. The camera will calculate how much light is needed, and the flash will provide that light. The next flash mode is Red Eye Reduction. This mode is good to use when you're photographing people or pets. In this mode, a tiny pre-flash will fire, which causes the size of the person's pupils to shrink, lessening the effect of red eye in the photo. Because the photo is not taken immediately when the shutter button is pressed, you'll want to avoid using this mode with moving subjects. In this mode, the flash will combine the red eye reduction function with the slow sync mode. Use this mode for night portraits when you'd like the background to be properly exposed and you'd like to minimize the effects of red eyes. This mode is available only when the shooting mode is set to Programmed Auto or Aperture Priority. It's a good idea to use a tripod in this mode to minimize blur due to camera shake. The next flash mode is Slow Sync mode. This flash mode is a good mode to use when you're photographing a subject at night and you'd like to have the background and the subject properly exposed. You may want to use a tripod when you're using this mode as well. The next flash mode is Rear Curtain plus Slow Sync. In this mode, the flash fires just before the shutter closes, which will create a stream of light behind light sources. In this mode, the flash fires just before the shutter closes, which will create a stream of light behind light sources, and the shutter speed will automatically slow to properly expose background light at night. Using a tripod is recommended to minimize blur due to camera shake. When the camera is set to shutter priority or manual mode, the rear curtain sync mode will be available. In this mode, the flash will fire just before the shutter closes, which will create a stream of light behind moving light sources. You may find that the flash is producing too much or too little light for your images. Using the flash compensation will allow you to make adjustments to the overall brightness of the image when the flash is used. To adjust the flash compensation, press the Menu button and select the Shooting menu. Here, scroll to Flash Compensation. Use the multi-selector to adjust the flash compensation. You can choose values with a plus sign to make the image brighter and values with a minus sign to make the image darker. The built-in Wi-Fi feature will allow you to use the camera wirelessly in several ways. You can connect to a smartphone or tablet, operate the camera remotely, send images to a smart device, and share the images to a computer. In order to use the Wi-Fi feature to connect to a smartphone or tablet, you'll first need to make sure that you have the Nikon Wireless Mobile Utility app installed. The app is available for both Android and iOS platforms. Once you have the app installed, you can configure the camera to connect to the smart device wirelessly. First, you need to enable the camera's built-in Wi-Fi. To do this, enter the menu system and scroll to the Wi-Fi menu. Here, select Connect and Yes. The camera will display an SSID and password. To connect to an iPhone, tap Settings, Wi-Fi, and select the network for the Nikon camera. Now, launch the Wireless Mobile Utility app. There are options for taking photos and viewing photos. Let's briefly discuss how to take photos remotely using the app. To take a photo, simply tap the camera button at the bottom of the app. The other option in the Wireless Mobile Utility app is the View Photos option. Here, you can choose to view the pictures on the camera. The pictures on the camera will roll for the smart device, or you can view the latest downloads. We hope you've enjoyed learning more about your Nikon One V3. We know this new information will give you enough confidence and know-how to take your photography skills to new levels. Remember, you can refer back to any section of this guide at any time. Watch for more QuickPro guides on using newly released cameras. Thanks for watching.